Tom here from Lawrence Systems, and I'm joined by John Hammond from Huntress. How you doing, John?
I'm all right, Tom. How are you?
We are starting a new series here, working with the team at Huntress and me and John. He's also a fellow creator. Look him up. Does a lot of great videos diving into a lot of security stuff there, and some deep dive, which really I think my audience, your audience, and the Huntress audience all really wants. We're going to get technical here, but before we can get technical, the first series in this episode is going to be about documentation. And this came up the other day. I actually tweeted, I don't like calling it vague tweeting, but obviously I can't talk in detail about client personal information. But basically, a client was hit with Ryok, not one of ours. We got called in because they were hit. And I had posted that my favorite Mike Tyson cybersecurity quote: "Everybody has a plan till they get hit in the face." and, I just love that statement because it's true, because dealing with it head on is very hard. And it was exacerbated by this particular larger enterprise that had a lack of documentation. So we're going to talk today about documentation. It's important. It is the most boring part of IT. It is why everyone doesn't want to do it, but it is also absolutely critical when you as a third party come in there and start asking questions like, what are we going to do to work on this? And where are the servers? How are they connected? And there's someone grabs a magic marker and just starts drawing. And I'm like, oh boy, I was hoping, I understand the documents are encrypted now, but I was hoping someone had something. Nope, we didn't even have it. It's not even encrypted. We just kept building over the last X years of our existence. And we just have had people that all know. And part of the training was the new people to start digging in, which is obviously not ideal, right?
Yeah. I mean, like if it's just stored up here, like if it's all in your head, one day it might not be there anymore, or that person might be gone. So it's really, really important to have all this stuff kind of written down, documented, archived somewhere, somehow. So people can get into it. I know when we always like open the problems, like, hey, we have to have documentation. We have to have procedures and policies and stuff. It's really hard to solve that problem because there's a lot to think about. And we wonder like, okay, what do we need to document or how? Because sure, we've got to keep track of assets or inventory, network data flow, stuff like that. What happens when X occurs, whatever the case may be. That's a lot of stuff to kind of like figure out. So I will offer a shout out and some love to the Blue Team Field Manual. Personally, I think this thing is fantastic. There's a lot of great stuff, both tech and non-tech in here. But if you check out like just one of the first pages, they'll talk about some key documents that you like absolutely should have. Organization chart, network diagrams, data flow diagrams, critical assets, incident response plan, business continuity, disaster recovery, just stuff, ideas kind of written down so you'll know how to respond when stuff hits the fan.
Yeah. And this is one of those, immediate things is when I started helping them with the chart, I said, hey, we got to find out who your HR person is. They're like, well, you're a tech guy. Why do you care about HR? I said, probably someone's going to notice the business has ceased to function as normal business. Probably HR and legal will want to discuss what the employees internally need to handle and how it externally will affect your clients. So, there's a lot of things in there that don't sound technical, but it's just making sure that everyone knows where everyone is. That's why org chart gets mentioned in a Blue Team Field Manual. You got to know who's responsible for what. Now, seeing as we started with cybersecurity, let's talk about cybersecurity controls. Probably one of the first things you really should work on getting documented. And we have a few things pulled up here. So let me jump over to one of my other desktops. And before we jump all the way into the NIST incident response, we're going to leave links and show notes to all this too, which this is a good one too. This is actually a pretty short one. And I think what we say there's 79 pages of how to handle some of the incidents. Kind of
79 as in short.
Yeah, as in short. And look, authority and publications and boilerplate stuff that you don't really need to read. You can skip down acknowledgments of who included all this. That's great. Introductory. And now we can actually start executive summary and go in here. But following some of these guides, I know it's not the best reading and maybe it'll put you to sleep, but at least if you go through these, they're really important to start understanding what structures are important from there. Now, the next side of this is going to be, what do you document after you know some of this? And the CIS Controls Navigator, this is really cool, from the Center for Internet Security. And
I love these guys. I love the Center for Information Security. Like they have or internet security. They've got great hardening guides, processes to really get in the weeds on the keyboard, the tech stuff, and even the high level procedure, policy, documentation, all this has to be in place.
Yeah. And I I know a lot of IT people, part of their task, and they come in, they take over, and their new position is, and they realize the previous position was gone because, well, they didn't document, they had a security incident, whatever reason, but they also find out that they are under compliance of one of these, like PCI DSS, or they have to follow one of these other baselines here, and they want to know what to do. Well, it is a daunting task if they're starting at zero for documentation. So if you're PCI DSS or you want to follow the MITRE attack framework, or in this one, so you can just check these boxes and start. We can go check all if you want to go crazy, or just apply certain filters for it, or uncheck all, but you figure out what things actually apply to you. And what this does when you're done, we'll do the full one here. We hit export, and it's going to think, because we have a lot of stuff in there. And here is an Excel file that you can start putting all the controls in here, and it tells you what you need in here. And I open it up in LibreOffice because I'm using Linux, but I think it comes up a little prettier in Excel. But you can go through here. Users, what do you need to do? Default passwords. Before deploying any new asset, change all default passwords. What these are is it starts creating checkboxes for you to do. So you can start labeling these, create a legend, create some color coding of what has been done, what hasn't been done. It's all written out here with titles and descriptions that are all in plain English. And it's a good way to start getting there. And you can also divvy this up. So based on the asset type, device, physical layers, or applications, and decide who needs to be assigned to what. Maybe you're in charge of the network, but maybe there's some work in here for some of the HR people to make sure things are done as well. Because everyone kind of has a role to play when it comes to deploying security at a company. The end users are not immune from this. Matter of fact, they're kind of like the frontline operators, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're the ones that usually are the most likely to have clicked on something to let things in. So making them a participant in this security assessment and having these type of things just laid out for you is great, because this can be that base document where you start doing it. And you've seen how quick it was to create a document like that.
I love the fact that it's in Excel. And that's not to say like, okay, great, using Microsoft Excel is kind of the solution, but that's really, really portable. Like there's less of a barrier of entry on that, because maybe not everyone has, Microsoft Office 365 Excel, but you could transform that into a comma separated value file. Like it can be plain text if for whatever reason you need it to be, or you can load that up in like Google Sheets, and it can become a collaborative document, and you can add more to it. And that's accessible really from anywhere. That's on the internet. And I mean, you'll have to make sure that's kind of, kept to your own archives and your own library, but there's a lot of ease of use and ease of access in that.
That's one of the things I've preached a lot was people message me all the time. Hey, Tom, will you cover this unique piece of software in a channel? And I'm like, one of the problems you run into is that accessibility and cross compatible with either third party or internally, making it easy for everyone to access. I mean, setting up, I can't remember the name of it. Someone had some that runs in Docker that's got some complexities to set up that's supposed to help automatically map your network and then create all this thing. Then every user has to create a login. And I know as someone managing things, how many more things that need logins and passwords to manage do I need? Get an Excel document, whether you're using Google Suite, which is my preference, and we have a lot of clients using Office 365. You can still do collaborative document sharing there. You get the document located within your Office 365 environment. You get the document shared. Now people can work on it. And just generally speaking, most end users can use Excel, or at least hopefully can if they're working in an office level position. So, making the data accessible, I think, is first where you start. Maybe later you find something very niched in. Like if you are specifically managing a data center, okay, you have a different need than an IT person in a business. I'll admit, maybe you do need specialized software because your day-to-day operations is running Azure. But if you're not running Azure, you're not working at a large data center. You are more run-of-the-mill, going to run standard IT. Finding the most accessible levels of documents is going to be more helpful to the progress of your work. Also, you don't want to be the only one doing it. Trust me, that is never. That's an instant failure because you will not have time. The more you can break out and delegate is going to be better.
Good to have a team.
Yeah, have a team. Now, I will talk about one more thing here, and before we pivot over to another tool that I really like for documentation, which is going to be, did I close my Excel document? No, I have this in Google Sheets, but this started as an Excel document. So my company does a lot of infrastructure builds, and Excel is also the common language we get to speak between the companies that hire us to build infrastructure at the remote locations. And this particular project has some weird naming because this is a company, I believe they're based out of Vegas. We're here in Detroit, but these are how they send us the documents, how to build their Detroit office. They have offices all over the place. And one of the advantages of doing this and throwing this Excel document in Google Sheets, again, this is a rack. There's so many U's that a rack has. Where do the horizontal stuff go? And this is that physical layer documentation. What is in each section of the rack? What goes in there? Now, we were only building infrastructure. They actually have a whole separate racks that went for their servers that were kind of pretty. I don't have a copy of them. We just happened to see them because someone else they sent their team in to rack the servers. But the same thing, they would put what's in, like they had a 4U storage server. They had some things like the AAA console server that was in here, 1U horizontal rack manager. Once again, why was all this in Excel? Because people building infrastructure, we're at the point where there's no internet in this building. Matter of fact, the lights were kind of dangled by electricians because electrical wasn't finished, because we're there at the construction phase. This is a physical new build out. So having this on a phone or a tablet with internet access, because like I said, the building doesn't have it, and putting in how this stuff goes, it's that barrier of communication being eliminated for being able to do this. And this is their FEC WAR MDF rack and FEC WAR IDF. So there was two different locations, primary and then the intermediary IDF system here. And a lot of these were open. Well, this is actually how it ended up. They sent us something different. We actually had to move things around because it wouldn't fit, but easily edited on the phone back to that low barrier of entry. So
this is awesome.
Yeah, it's just simple.
Exactly. Like this is, it keeps it simple. It keeps it easy. It doesn't have to be like over-engineered or complex. You don't need an incredible elegance. It just, you got to write it down. You just have to have it. You have to go through these CIS controls. You have to go through this NIST framework guide. The onus is kind of on you just to make sure that we have some idea and it's concrete and established as to what we have and where it is and how it lives. This is awesome. This is a great, simple solution.
And one thing that's really important, and this is my previous days, I worked as corporate IT for a transportation provider that worked in the automotive sector. And so we had to do, if you're not familiar with it, ISO documentation. And one thing that was like, you would fail your ISO if you didn't put the date for everything, because everything has a date. And that's actually really important because this is how documentation gets out of date. Because if you remember you added a new server or something, but you look at the date you added the server and the date of the documentation, you know it's wrong. I can't, if you ever have to print these, it's easy enough to see the revisions inside of here because it keeps a revision history. I can just go version history, blah, blah, blah. But when you print any of these, which by the way, do it, because back to my very first statement about things being encrypted, if they would have had all those documents, but they would have been encrypted, they wouldn't have had all those documents. So it is at least somewhere in the server rooms, print these out, but make sure you put a date on them or write a date on them when they're printed so you know that's the time of life of this. Now, over here, I've done a whole video on diagrams.net, formerly called draw.io. They did some name changing, but the software is the same. This is free, open source, embeddable in Confluence for those of you that are doing things in Confluence, embeddable in a lot of different formats. But what this allows you to do is, without having to pay any license fees, also makes it easily shareable because it's free via the web version, via download version. You can easily share diagrams and documents with people. I mention it. I know I was a long time Visio user, so I realized Visio is probably kind of the gold standard out there, but still not everybody has it. The nice thing about this, it's easy for everyone to have it and start speaking the same language very quickly. Matter of fact, without loading anything, they can open up in a web browser and upload your diagram and start editing it and send it back to you. They don't need to install anything. Matter of fact, we'll go a step further, and I have this in my demo. You can export these to like a PNG file, so it's just like a graphic, but then it shadow embeds in there the XML to recreate it. So you can actually import the PNG, and if it was created with draw.io, it pulls it back out and reassesses it. And
this looks like it's great for just like network diagrams, data flow diagrams, anything that you just need to draw out. Like this looks like an easy and awesome solution.
Yeah, really easy to use. It's free, so low barrier of entry. You don't have to go seek approval to get this integrated into your network. It doesn't have any ongoing license fees. It's all open source. And things like this. This is the lab. Is this my lab one? Yeah. well, no, this is actually one of my other ones, but start first breaking down what are these servers, what's on these servers and things like that. So I know and have documentation. And then I print this and it's actually, taped inside my server rack. That way, if the lights are out because some catastrophic explosion happens, at least we know what servers are which, what's on them, why they're critical. So that's what the servers are listed here and some of the basics. This one here is just one of their templates, but it shows like a VMware with a disaster recovery site deployment, how you would tie these together through WAN. And in terms of being able to create templates, it's hard starting in a blank sheet. It's just one of those, you stare at it and we'll hit create new diagram and I'll only drag this over to the right screen. File, new, back to, we said, cloud flowcharts here.
And they already have a ton of examples, right? They already have a good handful of templates you could use to work with.
Yep. Lots of different types of charts that you can use here. Network charts, other charts, different type of groupings for things. And it's really nice. Once you start with some of these, it makes life so much easier. Even if it's just a basic, we mentioned an org chart right here. Create. Now, kind of a fun thing. When you're creating these, it does allow you to embed links, email links and everything else, just like Visio does. I know that's a popular feature, being able to have all that. And I've seen someone do some really slick ones. Some of our clients have taken the time to do this. When they're documenting the servers, they hyperlink like the iDRAC controllers in there. So each one you click on for that server, it launches you to the iDRAC page for when you're documenting servers. That's just handy when you want to, like, I need to get into this server. I first need to identify the server. Oh no, how do I get to the iDRAC? Well, I have another IP list. Or just put hyperlinks to all your servers inside your draw.io file. Like, don't overthink it. And then once you embed this, there's an option to embed this as HTML and obviously make it that much easier. And back what I said earlier, Confluence and things like that, you can put it in there so it's shared with your team really easily, or just PNG files, etc. And away you go. So this is a fun tool.
Well, hey, that's a great bundle, I think, between network diagrams. We could use diagrams.net. Sure, you could do some Visio. Sure, you could do some like Lucid chart, whatever you're interested in. Excel for, hey, maybe some asset tracking, maybe some how the server rack looks, and working through those like Center for Internet Security guides, working through those to build out checklists, build out disaster recovery plans, whatever you might need. There's a good amount to go through.
Yeah,
but I think
it's enough to get people started. I mean, if we just sit around and talk about documentation, like I said, it's not the most exciting aspect of IT, but it is such a fundamental part, and it just makes your job easier when a disaster does occur because you have a process, procedure, what to do. This was a well-received thing that we did on that big Huntress Hackett event. Has it been a month or just a couple of weeks now? I can't remember.
I guess it was October, so it's been a month now.
Been a month now. And the choose your own adventure was fun, but you don't really want to do that in real life when you when you're going through. There's been an incident. Now what? Choose your own adventure. What steps are next? Best time to think about them is before they happen. So this was our first episode of some of these IT tips. I don't know if we have an exact name for these, but we're working on more series of these, and we do love feedback. So leave comments and everything of what more you like to hear from us. We will leave links in all the show notes to all the things we mentioned. Of course, a link to the Blue Team handbook, the NIST guidelines, the CIS controls, and Draw.io is Draw.io or diagrams.net. So I think they still have a redirect for Draw.io. I still want to call it that because when I reviewed it, that's what it was still called, I think. So
naming convention, silly names.
Awesome. Domains and all that fun stuff.
Well, hey, this was a blast, Tom. Thanks so much. And I'm excited for us to keep chatting again.
Yep. And we have more topics, but if you have a specific topic you want to cover, next, because we have a long list to go through. Don't worry. If you don't say nothing, we'll still come up with more. And you can check out both of us. We each have our own individual channels as well. So we're easy people to find. And thanks. And thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content from the channel, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon if you like YouTube to notify you when new videos come out. If you'd like to hire us, head over to lawrencesystems.com, fill out our contact page, and let us know what we can help you with and what projects you'd like us to work together on. If you want to carry on the discussion, head over to forums.lawrencesystems.com, where we can carry on the discussion about this video, other videos, or other tech topics in general. Even suggestions for new videos, they're accepted right there on our forums, which are free. Also, if you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, head over to our affiliate page. We have a lot of great tech offers for you. And once again, thanks for watching, and see you next time.